So it's been 3 years since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, but in the last few weeks there has been a growing impetus to try and put an end to that war. Ever since the election of new US President Donald Trump, there has been the first high-level contact between Russia and the United States in more than 3 years since this war began. What role can India play? After all, the Prime Minister has said 2 years ago that this is not the era of war, this is the era of peace. As a neutral arbiter, can India play a role in bringing this war to a conclusion? Joining me now is a very special guest here on CNN News 18. His Excellency Denis Alipov is the Ambassador of Russia to India. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start off by asking you, clearly there's a lot of impetus now and I would say urgency to try and find a solution to the war ever since Mr. Trump became President of the United States. In this geopolitical landscape, how do you see India-Russia ties playing itself out?
Well, I would say that our bilateral relations with India have been very consistent, very stable, very enduring at any periods of time since the Indian independence. Ideally, we would like to have our relations immune to external factors, especially negative external factors. But we of course live and cooperate not in a bubble. If we speak about the current stage, the anti-Russia sanctions, which I would like to point out are illegitimate in nature. A full-fledged economic war unleashed against us, 20,000 sanctions, an unprecedented number. So they incidentally have an impact on the Russia-India trade, not the opposite impact, not the one that was intended. Mm-hmm. We have reached the 66 billion of USD in trade last year. It has increased manifold, mainly due to Russian exports of oil, but not only. We have substantially increased the supplies of fertilizers, agricultural products, coal, petrochemical products. The Indian exports to Russia are also growing, have grown by 23% last year by 11 months of last year. We are very optimistic about the perspectives. We're looking forward to an early start of negotiations on a free trade agreement between India and the Eurasian Economic Union that would be beneficial for the process, for the expansion of bilateral trade and the economic relations. And of course, trade is only part of the relationship, of the cooperation. We have been the only country that practically implements the construction of a nuclear power plant in India. The cooperation in nuclear energy has been very beneficial to both our countries, have been very candid and extensive. We're looking forward to the expansion of construction in the Indian soil, including the smaller modular reactors, not only big power plants. Yep. We are in dialogue on non-energy application of nuclear technologies. Of course, the defense cooperation is there, very instrumental to the security of this country. The educational contacts in education, in joint research programs, including artificial intelligence, quantum computing. So this has all taken place and is ongoing, and I would say that we should not bet on the time when the sanctions would go. They may
take some more time.
Go sometime in future, they may not. We should adjust ourselves to the current realities. There are ways to proceed, and we are very hopeful and looking forward to the progress.
I do want to ask you, Ambassador, there was the first ever recently, the high-level meetings that happened between the United States and Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he met with your Foreign Minister, Mr. Sergei Lavrov, in Riyadh. I believe there are further meetings happening in Turkey this week. What is the state that you can tell our viewers about how soon we can see a settlement to this war, what the parameters or conditions might be as to how we see the end of this war, and what does India take away from this rapprochement between Russia and the United States?
My take is that this process would be very cautious on both ends, and would probably not be very quick. But it is a good development, a positive development that we see on the part of the Trump administration, that it is prepared not only to listen but to hear, and is prepared to sit and talk on the basis of mutual respect and talk about the solution that would be beneficial to both ways, would bring the peace process closer, peace process in Europe closer. We are now, have just started. Ukraine issue is not the only one. We have said that we need to first re-establish the direct contacts between Russia and the US. And this is the very thing that we are focused on now. We need to ensure the full-fledged, smooth operations of the embassies in both countries, so that the dialogue is maintained on a constant basis. And of course, in due course, we will focus on the peaceful solution for the crisis in Europe.
How hopeful are you, Ambassador, that there will be a quick resolution to the conflict? There seems to be a split in NATO itself. The United States clearly wants to end this war as quickly as possible. Do you believe Europe will continue to back Ukraine even without US support? How do you see a conclusion to this war?
Europe has already indicated that it will continue with its belligerent approach. The Danish Prime Minister has said the other day that in the current circumstances, continuing with war is something like more in the interest of Ukraine than the peace process.
Yeah.
A very telling argument that doesn't work in favor of Europe. Strategically, Europe has relegated itself to a non-serious actor in this very peace process over Ukraine. We don't see what positive proposals it can bring with itself if Europe sits at the table. But the issue is generally very complex. I don't foresee that it will be there will be a quick solution to it. Again, I would reiterate that to resolve and to reach an enduring peace in Europe, we must address the root causes of the conflict, the security issues for the continent. NATO, in this respect, has always been a negative and so to say hostile factor. It was created in 1949 precisely for the purpose of containing the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. And the Warsaw Pact as a counter-organization was created several years after NATO to counter it. There has long been no Soviet Union, no Warsaw Pact. NATO still exists, even started to speak about its global role. For Asia, it would be a serious mistake to allow NATO in its security affairs, considering how detrimental its actions have been in Europe. So the process is going to be, the discussion should be very serious, and the approach to the peaceful resolution should be very serious. Should not only focus on the immediate ceasefire. This will not lead to anything. It will only be a respite for the Europeans and Ukrainians to regain the forces. Obviously, we are now on the offensive and have an upper hand on the battlefield. Why, you may ask, would Russia want a compromise?
Yeah.
We can continue
the war,
and have the full victory through, fighting. On the contrary, we are prepared and have always, been prepared, always spoken in favor of a peaceful resolution, which is precisely the compromise. Now, in the current circumstances, we see that Europe and Ukraine are not prepared for that compromise. They talk peace, but do the opposite, continuing to with supplies of weapons and money to Ukraine to sustain it.
All right, Ambassador Denis Alipov, thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18.
Thank you.